Welcome back to Breakfast Television. Joining us now is another professor from the university, Dr. Colin Soskolne. And we were talking about International Week with Professor Andy Knight, and you're going to be speaking there today as well. And your topic is?
The question, has climate change hijacked the global change agenda?
Okay.
My concern is that with all the hoopla around climate change that has been accorded it correctly so over the past few months, following Al Gore's movie, An Inconvenient Truth, and the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change winning the Nobel Peace Prize, that I'm concerned that too much attention and too many resources will be allocated at climate change without enough attention being paid to all the other changes that are taking place globally that are at least as severe and with greater consequence or as great consequence for human life and the sustainability of life.
So you say that you're concerned that there might be more here, but you also say that it's appropriate that this amount of attention is paid. So we've got to step up in the other areas, not pull back in when it comes to climate change.
Absolutely. Vast amounts of resources are going to be necessary if we're going to adapt, because unfortunately we've waited more than 40 years to pay attention to the concerns about climate changing. And we certainly can't afford to wait any more time. We need to start acting now. Right. So I sit here horrified about the Alberta government's position.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because this is one that doesn't seem to be spending, a lot of people say isn't spending enough on this issue.
Yes, well, they're certainly spending some, but at the policy levels, not enough attention is being given to acting in concert with the rest of the country or the rest of the world. Alberta seems to adopt this, shall we say, cavalier approach of finding out made in Alberta solutions. And with global problems like this, one has to act in concert with what's going on in the rest of the world.
So we shouldn't be isolating ourselves, obviously.
Correct. And we need to meet these targets and deadlines for reducing emissions so that the cycle that we're in of the climate right now will not even be more severely damaging to life as we know it on the planet.
What are some of the other issues that you think we should be focusing on as well that perhaps aren't getting the attention that they deserve?
Well, there are three other dimensions to this debate or this concern. The one is population growth, the rate of urbanization in the world, the expansion of urban developments and the loss of agricultural viability. The other areas, just generally our commitment and belief that everything is limitless, that we can continue to grow, expand the economy. Essentially, the word growth needs to be expunged from our thinking. We cannot consider a life for future generations with the concept of growth in our economy, growth in population, growth in urbanization. These things have to stop. We have to focus more energy and attention on the issues of development, and development in a different way than what we have before. So what we need is for governments to create incentives and disincentives against growth. But that's very difficult for government to do, because essentially there are so many very powerful vested interests that pressure government to pursue growth.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, here people would suggest that the petroleum industry pressured the government when it came to the royalties, and obviously when it comes to making change as well. So the problem then is that we're living too much in the now and not focusing on the future. Like, do you feel that we're not focusing on it at all?
I feel as if we're tokenly focusing on the future. The greater focus, because the greatest amount of wealth and power in the world is vested in corporate activities. And we have bought into that model. We need to let go of that model and find a new model if we do indeed care about 10 or 20 years from now. We're talking about critical harms coming to populations internationally. My lens or my focus on the issue is from a global perspective. And while in Canada we may be buffered for a few months here or there, the concern is for action that's needed now to prevent these harms. My job as an epidemiologist is to design interventions and inform policy to prevent harms to communities on a population basis. So no greater harm, I think, exists than all these global changes that are taking place. Right. And the book that I wrote and put together with all my contributors is designed to help us understand why we're in this policy deficit the way we are.
Are you surprised that, I mean, everybody talks about globalization and everybody seems to understand that you can get information about the other side of the world in a second, that we're just not aware of the impact that can have on us, the negative impact?
We've been we've bought into a myth, essentially, that there's limitless availability of resources. We're essentially, as I say in the book, not a very smart species. We make very dumb decisions, certainly collectively. We need to change that. We need to educate our students at the University of Alberta and internationally about what sustainability means, so that they can engage in a public discourse, so that when it comes to debates around who's standing for office and what our public officers, who are probably acting in good faith generally, but influenced very heavily by powerful vested interests, how they need to engage in that process to understand what the issues are for the decisions we take today and the implications of those decisions for the future.
Well, thank you very much for spending time with
You're
us today.
welcome.
And
thank you for having me.
Your discussion is going to be at 3:30 this afternoon.
Correct, in the Tim Center.
In the Tim Center at the University campus, so 3:30 to 4:30. And the topic is, has climate change hijacked the global change agenda? And we've got one more board to put up here for you as well. It is International Week at the University of Alberta. It's going on until tomorrow. And if you'd like a program guide, they're available on campus, or you can check out this website, www.iweek.ualberta.ca. We're going to be back with plenty more Breakfast Television. Find out what Bridget's up to in the next segment. Don't go away.